there's a couple really strange-looking men that were here, and they kind of freaked everybody out, and they were asking questions about you. And, of course, now I'm getting a little bit nervous, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, he goes, I don't know how to describe them except for extremely odd-looking. They were the exact same height, they were wearing the exact same clothes, and they had the exact same faces, like they were twins. And he said they were wearing black suits, black trench coats, they were wearing like the old-fashioned fedora hats. They had extremely, extremely pale skin. And he said they came in and they asked for you. And I said, I'm sorry, he's actually not working today. And it seemed like they didn't believe me, so they started to walk around the hotel, and shortly after they went to the tour desk. But he goes, they freaked me out, and I really wanted to tell you that there were these weird guys in here looking for you. So, of course, now I'm a little bit skeptical and I'm a little bit freaked out all at the same time. So the first thing I do is I run into my security office and I rewound the cameras. And sure enough, here comes two gentlemen through the front door looking exactly how he described. Then the next day, I was talking with my tour desk, and one of them asked to talk to me. She came in my office, the same as my bellman, and she said, I heard that you heard that there were some men looking for you. And she said, they asked a few questions about you, and they said strange things that I didn't understand. And they were talking about governments and conspiracies, and none of it made any sense to me. But she goes, they were very, very scary. She said they had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. Their hair looked like they had a wig on, like it was attached to their hat, like it wasn't even real. And she said, and the scariest thing, their eyes were so big and so blue that they almost hypnotized me a little bit. And she goes, and you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but I swear they knew what I was thinking. And she started to cry. And she said one more thing before she left. She said, these men, they didn't blink. Not once did I see them blink.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and we're gonna chat today about something that isn't really paranormal in my book, just because I usually I'm talking about ghosts and haunted stuff and haunted buildings. So I kind of want to chat today about something that I don't usually talk about, which is UFO stuff, Men in Black, but I have a reason why, and it's super cool. First, I have to tell my production staff thank you because they're so awesome. They saw my video when I talked about Zach Bagans and Deadly Possessions that I was using my water bottle, and they decided they didn't think it looked good in the video, so they went and got me this really cool water bottle, and it's pink. In case you didn't know I liked pink, you know, my hair is pink. My makeup bag. Hi, everybody. So they found this really cool cup, and it's actually made out of glass, and it's a skull. But it's glass, it's hard to break. You wouldn't want to drop it or anything, but isn't that awesome? I thought it was so exciting. So this is my water cup for filming. Okay, the reason I'm doing this video is because BuzzFeed came out with this really cool video last week, and it was in regards to kind of comparing the biggest Men in Black stories that they could find, in the United States, basically. I'm gonna link the video below, so make sure you look for the link. It wasn't that long, it was like a 10-minute video, but it was so good. And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I actually had an experience with not directly, but indirectly from one of my friends with the whole alien Men in Black thing, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it's something I've kind of kept in for a really long time. I was kind of afraid to talk about it, but people are starting to make contact with alien contact even more now that I thought that it was kind of appropriate to share it at this point in time. Okay, so I had this friend, and his name was Sean. That was his real first name. And I had known him I guess I met him when I was about 18, and we'd been friends, probably till I was 23, 24, somewhere in there. And he was in the Air Force, and he was actually a pilot in the Air Force. I believe he was actually a little bit older than me, and he'd been in for quite a while, and he had decided that he was not going to re-enlist into the Air Force again. So at the time, I was still living in Colorado. Sean was actually living in Texas. He owned a home, and he started taking video footage of alien encounters that he had in the Air Force. He was trying to educate me. He was saying there's good and bad and all this stuff. I didn't really understand what I was watching. I didn't know if I really believed what this evidence or this video footage was. And he decided to make a YouTube channel and basically start posting all this stuff for the public. When he was in the planes, this is when he, thought that he would actually make contact, because I can't remember they were jets, and they're the really fast jets. If anybody knows anything about the Air Force, please leave comments below as far as what kind of jet it could have been. But I do know that he could take it almost completely out of the atmosphere, or maybe he wasn't supposed to and he did anyways. And that was where he was getting all of this footage from. So he starts getting in touch with Tom DeLonge, who's from Blink-182. Tom DeLonge, as everybody knows, is super into UFOs, and he's been a UFO tracker for years, and he's got all this footage. And in fact, I think he's working on a documentary right now to release evidence to the public. So Tom actually started kind of egging Sean on to get more, because he had access, to these planes that not a lot of people can fly. And so Sean started basically sending this photo evidence / video footage to Tom DeLonge. So Tom DeLonge's no, this is great stuff, but just remember, be really careful, because the government doesn't want anybody to know about any of this. And not too long after that, I get a phone call from Sean, and Sean was kind of in a panic state. So just a little background on Sean: he was an only child. His parents, he was kind of not close with his parents. He was always kind of an oddball, and so as he got older, he didn't really stay in touch with them as often as a kid should. So they were pretty distant, and I believe that they lived in another state. I think it was they were in Utah or Montana, somewhere over there. So in the meantime, Sean calls me one day, and he was like, "Oh my God, the Men in Black exist. They are real, and they came to my house." And I was kind of I believe totally that other beings exist, obviously it's kind of silly and ignorant to think that that wouldn't be the case, to think that we're the only people, you know, that are existing, or beings that are existing. So I've never really learned much about the Men in Black. In fact, if you need kind of a short phrase as what the Men in Black are, just to give you like a really quick educational thing, is the Men in Black, which of course we know the Men in Black as Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, of course, but they're actually kind of like you and me, or they do believe that the Men in Black could be alien government, basically. So if someone makes some sort of contact with UFOs or alien life, the Men in Black supposedly show up to your house and threaten you with your life, or take the footage, or whatever have you. Whatever you believe, there's all kinds of different encounters that people have claimed. So Sean claimed that he had 3 Men in Black show up to his house in Texas, and they basically told him he needed to delete all of the footage or suffer the consequences, type of thing. Sean was totally against it. He believed in this. He had, you know, footage that not a lot of people had, since he was flying these jets. And he went to work the next day. I don't know how ranks work in the Air Force. I do know how they work in the Army. So I'm not sure. Like, I want to say it was maybe the equivalent. Sean was like a sergeant or a staff sergeant. And then he was talking to someone that was maybe like a colonel or something like that. And so he was telling the colonel about what was going on. So Sean tells his boss, oh my gosh, you know, I put all of these images out on the internet, and these guys showed up to my house. Did you send them from the Air Force? Tell me what the deal is. And his boss is like, I've heard of this. And he was like, you know, being in the Air Force branch, we all know that, you know, we've all had our own encounters or our own experiences. But the guy was like, you cannot, you know, you should not be releasing this to the public, because it could cause hysteria. It could cause people to basically headbutt the government, saying there's, you know, other beings out there, and, you know, instead of them listening to our government and, you know, the way we run things here on this planet, they're going to say, oh, there's bigger things out there, so I don't need to rule, you know, I don't need to listen to the rules and the government anymore. So by the advisement of his, you know, the colonel or whatever he was, he tells Sean he needs to delete everything and listen to these guys, because he goes, they're not one to mess with, basically. And Sean came home and called me, and he's like, I know that my colonel said this, or whoever his boss was, and he goes, but I'm not going to delete them. You know, it's taken me years to gather all this evidence, and I want the public to know the truth. And so I was like, dude, just be careful. Like, I don't know what this is about. I don't study UFOs, and I don't study that kind of thing, but it's pretty terrifying to think that, you know, they're threatening you with your life and stuff like that. So in the meantime, the next few days, like I would say over the course of maybe 7 to 9 days, Sean's calling me at least every day, every other day. I was kind of the closest friend that he had, since him and I were just friends. We'd never dated or anything, but we both understood each other because we were both only children, and, you know, neither of us had siblings. So we just got each other. So I was kind of like the sister he never had, and he was kind of like the brother I never had. So Sean's calling me. He's like, dude, somebody's outside my house. I don't know what's going on. They're watching me. It's this black sedan. You know, it's the typical story of the Men in Black when they show up to your house. And he was like, they're watching me, and I don't know what's happening. And so I get this other phone call from him. It's probably been like the 7th or 9th day. I can't remember how long it's been. And it's a weird time of day. I want to say it's like 4 in the morning or 4:30 in the morning, something really weird. And he's like, oh my God, you know, they're going to take me and they're going to kill me. And he's like not making sense. He's kind of just like rambling off a bunch of stuff. And he sounds like they're watching him and he's on the phone, or he thinks like they're outside. I don't know. He wasn't clear. He wasn't really making sense. And I was trying to question him, and like he was not giving me any answers. And he's like, you know, they're going to kill me. He's like panicked. Like he sounds like he's like panting and sweating and like seriously like stressed or distressed, whatever you want to say. And I'm still not getting clear answers. I'm like, where are you? Are you at home? And I knew he was at home. And I couldn't tell though, like if they were in front of him and like they let him make a phone call. I didn't know. Nothing was making sense. And all of a sudden, I think it was about a 3-minute phone call, and all of a sudden the phone line went dead. So a few months had gone by and I hadn't heard from him. I wasn't close with Sean's parents, and finally I found his parents, okay? So I started to write letters, and I wasn't getting responses. And then I think I contacted them through Facebook, and it was at the time when Facebook, the only way they could see your message was if you were their friend. So they never read my messages, they never responded to my messages. And so finally I got a hold of his mom. I actually called his house phone number, like a landline that I had found. I kind of stalked his parents out, to be honest, because I was just worried about my friend. And I got a hold of his mom. And I was like, hey, my name's Crystal. And I know you don't know me, but I'm one of Sean's like really good friends. And I got this really weird phone call from him a couple months ago, and I've been trying to like reach out to you guys, and I didn't know any of his other friends. And Sean actually did not have a Facebook. And I believe that was like a request that the Air Force had given him. So I couldn't like look through his Facebook to, like, in fact, he didn't have any social media except for YouTube. So I couldn't find friends that he had. And so I get on the phone with his mom, and she's like, oh dear. And I'm like, what? Was that a legit phone call? Like, was that legit? And she's like, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry you didn't hear, but Sean's passed away. And I was like, huh? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I don't believe it. So the story that they gave his family was he was out doing some sort of training exercises with the planes or whatever, doing demonstrations and whatnot, and somehow he got hurt and he was killed. And it was while he was training here on the stateside. They actually sent, like, they had a casket. They had a burial service. They did the whole giving the parents the United States flag. Like, it was a legitimate Air Force burial. Or military burial, whatever you want to call it. And I was so confused. So I was like, so where, like, he owned his house in Texas. Like, she's like, oh yeah, we sold the house. He didn't have any animals. Like, he was just kind of a bachelor, So I guess they went in and just kind of sold everything, and they just accepted that his son was dead. And so I told his mom, I said, I just want to let you know about this phone call I got from Sean, like the last time I talked to him, and I'm kind of upset now because, like, I had tried to call his phone number. Here's the weird part too. Like, I tried to call his phone number after that, like, not immediately. I did try to call afterwards, and it would never answer. He would never answer. And I was texting and like leaving voicemails, but like a day later, like barely a day later, I would call his phone, and I do know that he had Verizon because I have Verizon. And his phone said that the phone number was disconnected. I started sending Sean emails. He had 2 or 3 different email addresses that I had. I would get that like bounce back email that said like this email doesn't exist or whatever, where they give you this like whole like chart and then they send you your mail. It's weird. That was all of it. And this is like a day later, like there was no time lost. And then like I'm on his YouTube page and I'm like, oh good, like the YouTube page is up. And then like a day later, the YouTube page is gone. Like everything's gone. The footage is gone. The YouTube channel does not exist. Like whatever, like everything that he has touched has now been wiped to oblivion, basically, and this person no longer exists. So I was really kind of upset because at that point I thought maybe he had gotten in trouble with like the Air Force or something. I did end up getting a hold of whoever his rank is. I don't know if you want to call it colonel. I don't remember. I don't know Air Force terms, to be honest. But I did get a hold of that person on Facebook, and he was very vague with me. I said that I had gotten in contact with Sean's parents, and that they had let me know that Sean had passed away or whatever. And basically he was just very like, unfortunate circumstances, it happened, you know, gave me the city and state that he's buried in. And so then I was like, I wrote him back and I said, and I told him what happened. I was like, I was on the phone with him. He sounded like he was getting ready to like be captured or like killed or whatever you want to call it. And like the phone line went dead and the dude never responded to me. In fact, I think he ended up blocking me on Facebook.